Hi everyone, I think it's time we start today's webinar. So, last week we talked about the basics of Codoozer. So I explained how the interface works and all the different parts you can find in our interface. And today we're going to start doing some action. Okay, so we are going to start building an app. Well, not a real app, but I want to show you how to create interfaces. So how to design the UI of your apps. Okay, so basically we'll be like doing some views in the app and then some wrappers. I'm not sure if you remember what those are. We saw that in the last webinar. So yeah, just to as a reminder, let me remind you that one app is made of different sections, which we call wrappers, and then every wrapper can have one view or several views. Okay, so the views are the parts of the app that really have all the design of your app. Okay, so in a view is where you put all the images, all the text, all the videos, and things like that. Okay. Well, I see that there are people coming. So if you want to say hello using the chat, then I will know who you are. Because if you don't use the chat, then I won't be I won't know who you are. Okay. So yeah, let's dive in. And do you remember that one view can have like one component or different components? So then the components are the ones that form the view, and they are the ones that manage the content. Okay, so yeah, we'll be adding some components and then we will be modifying them during today's webinar. Okay, so, I just have my default project. I created a new project from scratch. And as you know, Codoozer makes some content for you, but you can just delete all that content. And that's what we are going to do. Okay, because I really want to start from scratch. Okay, and even this wrapper, let me remove everything. Okay, so now I have this empty view and I'm going to start designing. Okay, so yeah, let's start understanding the structure of a view. Okay, not only the content, but also the other parameters that they have. Okay, so first we have the ID. This is a unique identifier for your view. Okay, you shouldn't use spaces or special characters, but in fact, if you try to add some spaces or things like that, Codoozer won't let you use it. Okay, so we control that. So basically you can use underscores, letters, and some characters or some numbers, sorry. Okay, but if you use a number, it should be always, I mean it should never be in the first position, I think. Yeah. Okay, so now we have our ID. It can be, oh sorry, main view. Then we can have a title for the view. Okay, this title can be in just one language, but since this is a label that is going to be shown in the app, we can use multi-language. So you can press here and then here to spread the title, and here we can add different languages. Remember that the default language will be the one that every user will see by default, okay, but only if they have their device using a language that is not set on Codoozer. Okay, so for example here, I mean normally default is English if we are going to publish our app in worldwide, but you can add more languages. Not only these in this list, you can add any language. You should use the ISO name of the language, normally 2 characters. Okay, I guess in Italian it does not be, maybe Vista Principale, I don't know. Okay, but you can have different titles, okay, in any language. Okay, so that's for the title. Then we have the wrapper. In every view, we have to tell Codoozer which wrapper this view is going to use. Okay, by default in our Scratch project, we have the main wrapper, but we can add more wrappers. We will see that later. Okay, but we have always to enter here the name of the wrapper that we want. Okay, in case we have several wrappers, we can pick just one of them. Okay, this is very important. So, then we have the content. Okay, so here's in the content is where we are going to spend time today. So in the content is where we are going to define the components that we want to use for our view. Okay, so yeah, let's do that later. But before that, let me end with the parameters. We have this history parameter. It can be true or false. So basically this is to let the app know that we want to have this view in the navigation history. Okay, by default, if we don't use the history parameter, we can remove it. By default, it's true. Okay, so this means that if we start navigating one view after the other, then it's true. So this view will be set in the navigation history. Okay, but if we set this history to false, then this view won't be added to the navigation history. So if we go from view 1 to view 2 and then to view 3, and if in case view 2 has false in this history value, then if we press back in view 3, then it will go to view 1, not view 2. Okay, this is the meaning of history. Okay, but I don't need it right now. Then we have events. So every view can have different events. So here in the events, we can define functions. So we can define how we want the app to react. So we have several events, like the main events are like the unloaded. So every time this view is fully loaded, then we can set different functions. Okay, like change the name of some properties or things like that. Okay, then we have this on preload. This will be called before loading the app. Before loading the view, sorry. Okay, so we can also define some things. We will see all this in in future webinars, okay? I just want to give you a full explanation of how a view works. Then we have the on exit. This is when we leave this view. That's something that happens, so we can define some functions, okay? Then on back press, if the user is in this view and the user presses back button, then we can define some functions, and then we finally have on returned. This means if we were in this view, but then the user left to a different view, but then he returns. Okay, so then we can set some functions as well. Okay, but well, now I don't need events. So let's start doing some design. Okay, so well, the content is where we are going to put all the components for our view. Okay, so as you see, there are some brackets here. So this means that this is a collection of objects. And these objects, since I'm designing content, these objects are components. So you see this is like a ghost object with a plus button. So I can click here, and then I just added a new component. Okay, so first thing, when I add a component, I have to select the type of component that this is. Okay, so well, this is the full list of what we have. We have a banner, which is for, well, let me explain all of them. Okay, so we have banners in case we want to monetize our app with commercials. Then we have buttons, which are basically that, buttons, so we can set actions. We have the cropper, which is for editing images. In case imagine that we are using one app where the user is taking a picture from the camera, and then we want to let the user edit the picture, like crop it or rotate it, things like that. Okay. Then we have the group. This is also, this is very important. We are going to use this one. The group basically is a component that can have components inside. Okay, this is very useful for having great interfaces. Okay, we will see that. Then we have the image, which is for showing an image on the screen. We have the input text, which is for like creating a form so the user can enter some value. Then we have the list, which is for having like different rows on the screen. So I mean, in case we want to show a collection of information, okay, so the list will repeat every piece of information. For example, if you are like showing a database, we can put a list with different values. Okay, we'll see that in a different webinar. Then we have maps, in case we want to display online maps with Google Maps. We have the PDF viewer, in case we want to show a PDF file. The range, which is for selecting a number. I mean, well, let me use it. So basically the range is this one, you see? In case you want to set a minimum value and a maximum value. So, okay, so this is also for creating forms. Then we have the scanner, which is for having a QR code scanner or a barcode scanner in the app. We have the select, which is for having a list where the user can pick one value. Then we have the switch, which is for turning off and on something like this one. You see, we have the text, which is obviously for displaying a text on the screen, a video, also obvious, and then a website. We can embed a website in our view, and then a YouTube video. We can embed YouTube videos also in the app. Okay, so well, these are currently the different types of components you can use. I mean, there are a lot, so with those you can create a lot of things with Codoozer. But then, regardless the type of let me put an image, or yeah, no, let's start with a text. Okay, so I'm going to use a text, and hi, this is a text. Okay, so imagine I have this text. Okay, so what I was saying is that regardless of the type of component, there are this object, or this component has some parameters that are always they are always there. Okay, we can use those parameters regardless the type of component. Okay, because those parameters are related to the bounds of our component. Okay, so if I move the mouse over my component here, you see this, it's highlighted on the right side, okay, in the visor. Okay, you see that? So this green box, these are the limits or the bounds of my component. Okay, so I can change those with this, for example, with the width. You see that the width of this component is 100%, so I can make it smaller, like let's say 50%. And now you see the green box is 50% of the size of the screen. Okay, this is in case I want to use percentage width. Okay, I could do the same for height. I could put here like 100%, and now the text is using 100% of the height of the screen, or of the view. Okay, so for the width and the height, you can use percentage, or you can use absolute values, and in this case they will be points of density. So if I use like 150, now the bar disappears because this is an absolute value. Okay, and well, normally screens have like 320 pixels of density. It can be different in different phones, but this is the average. Okay, so if you use like 250, you see now that it's bigger. Okay, with the height you can do the same. You can use like 200. Okay, you see now my box. Okay, so there are also some other parameters that you can use regardless of the type of component, and these are the H align. So you can move the box to the center. You see now the box is in the center, or to the end. Okay, and then we have the V align, which is for vertical alignment. Like we can put it on the middle, you see. So just realize that the width and the height are telling just the green box how big it is. Okay, not the size of the text, but only the bounds of this component. Okay, sometimes the content in a component is smaller than the component itself. Okay, but that can happen. In that case, we'll see what happens. Okay, but then other parameters that are independent of the type of component is the background. We can set a background for every component. So we can select image, solid, or transparent. Well, transparent is like having no background, right? So let me use a solid one, and then I will pick a color from my color palette. I can use the primary light, for example. Okay, now you see this is the whole box. Now it's easier to see, right? Hi, Sonny, how are you? I didn't see you coming. Okay, so well, let me remind. I'm explaining the basics. This is lesson 2. I guess this will be very easy for you. But anyway, I mean, there's not too much people today, but I want just to record the video so it will be available on YouTube. Because normally, I mean, for English videos, normally there's more people watching the video after I've recorded than watching them live. Okay, so yeah, so I will do the whole webinar. Okay. So yeah, this is regarding the background. Okay, and I think that's all for the standard parameters. Well, that's not true. Well, we have this one, the if. Okay, we are not going to watch this or to learn this today, the if. This is, let me explain, this is in case you want to make this component conditional. Okay, so only if something happens, or I mean, if some reference has some value, then we will display this component. Okay, I mean, for example, imagine that you are designing a view and you want to have one button only in case the user has logged in. Okay, so this is for like the private area, for example. So you can make a condition with the if parameter. So that component, that button will only be displayed in case some condition is accomplished. Okay, but we will see that. I mean, all these logic things, we will see those in the next chapter. Okay, then we have the on click. We can do, basically we can do all the components clickable, or most of them. Okay, so here we can define a set of functions. So we tell the app how it should react in case someone clicks on this component. Okay, we can, I mean, if we put a on click, then we are just transforming our component into a button. Okay, it's basically that. Okay, but I won't use it now. And finally, we have another parameter, which is the position. Okay, this is also independent of the type of component we are using. So basically every component can have a position. Okay, and position can be absolute or relative. By default, all the components are relative. This means that the core components are placed um, one below the other. Okay, normally in a view, because a view is a vertical stack. So all the components, they are placed one below the other. Okay, so because they are relative to the previous one. Okay, but in case we want to use, let me show you. Like, let me add a different image. Okay, I will use this as a background. Okay, but instead of the default PNG file that I have, let me upload a new file. I have this, for example, this image. Okay, I'm going to drop it here on Codoozer. Okay, so now it's here. And for this component, okay, I want to use this image. So you see that now I have both components. I have the first text and the second image. Okay, so the image is below the text. Okay, so because they are relative, I mean, the image is relative to the previous one. Okay, so what happens if I want to make this image not relative to the previous one? So I could use this, the position, and use the absolute value. Okay, so since it's absolute, it means that its position only related to the parent, which is the view. Okay, so now the background image is hiding the text, okay, because it's in front of the text. Okay, so we can change the order. Since these are two JSON objects in this list, we can change the order. So I'm going to place the image before the text. So I'm moving it up. Okay, so now you see that this image was defined before the text, and since it's absolute, it's going to be like the background. Okay, you see that now I can add more text. For example, let me clone this one and change this is text number 2, and let's use a different background. For example, this one. Okay, now you see that these two texts are relative to each other. Okay, but the background is not relative to them. It's absolute, which means it's relative to the screen or to the view only. Okay, so if I change the B align of the image, it can be to the bottom, it can be top. Okay, you see that the other components are not moving. Okay, so well, in case of images, let me finish this background. I have one parameter which is only for images, which is the scale. So I can make it scale so it fits the bounds of the component, but this component has width 100% and the height is wrap. This is a possible value for a height. I mean, you can use a percentage, you can use a number, or you can use wrap, or well, you can also use fill, which will make the component spread to fill all the space available. Okay, so in case I want this image to fill all the screen, I can use fill, or I can use 100% in height. So now my background is filling all the screen, and it's absolute and it's scale to crop. Okay, so basically if you put this parameter, it will make the image be cropped on the I mean vertically or horizontally. Okay, let me use a different image and you will see better. I think let me find okay, for example, this bread. You see, this is an horizontal image, right? You see, but if I use this image as the background, since I'm using the scale, you see that it's not showing the whole image, it's scaling it vertically in order to fill all the space available. Okay, so well, what else? Well, I missed two other parameters that all the components have regardless the type, which is the margin. Okay, so margin is in case you want to set some margin around the component. So you can add, for example, 24, and you see that now I'm having margins not only on the bottom. Let me put this B align on the top, and then this one also on the top. Okay, so now you see the text number 1. It has margin on the top, but also on the bottom. Okay, because I'm using a margin in all the directions. Okay, but if I want to use only margin in one direction, you can click on this plus button. Okay, so now you can spread the margin. Now it has become not a number, but a whole JSON object. So I can add margins in every direction. I have now the top 24 density points, but I could use like bottom 24. Okay, but now if I use the H align start, you see there's no margin here on the left. I could put start and use a different margin like 12. Okay, now you see this margin is smaller. Okay, So, well, this is for the outside margin, but then we have another type of margin, which is the padding. We can use a padding, and this means the internal margin. You know that we have this, the whole green box is the component and the content is inside. Normally, in case of text, the text by default is on the top left corner, but there's no margin with the bounds of the component. So if I add some padding, let's say 16, for example, you see that now I'm having an internal margin. Okay, and and you can also do paddings in different directions. Okay, you can have a top padding or a start padding, like bigger, like 32. Okay, so this is the internal margin. Okay, also very important. So if you want to create buttons, for example, if you want to make this text a button, normally you add some padding. Let's say button 16, and you can do 32. Okay, and for having this as a button, I could use hide wrap, which means it will fit the content, you see, but obviously with the internal margin. And I can do the same for the width. I can use wrap for the width. Okay, so now you see I have a button with the text in the middle. I could have this button in the center, and now I can add some actions to this button. Okay, this is how you make a button look like, you make a text look like a button. Okay, so what else? When I think that's all for the common parameters. Okay, then we have some other parameters which are specific for the type of component. Okay, but we will see that a bit later. Okay, now we know how to handle the bounds of any component. Okay, let's try to put them one next to the other. How to align them horizontally. Okay, right now we know how to make a vertical stack to put one component below the other. So let's see how we can use the components in a row, for example. Okay, so as I explained, we have this component, which is the group. So let me use this as this name can be row. So now this group has width of 100%. You see this green line on the simulator. Okay, then we have the height of wrap. This means that the group is going to be as high or as high as the content. Okay, but now it has no content inside, so we can now add some components to our group. So let's do that. Well, we have for example, let's add some text, label 1, and add some here. We can add label 1, and then we have, let's use for example 50% width, and let's put a background to this text so you can see it better, like gray. Okay, you see the text here. Okay, so let's add another label 2, 50%, and label 2. Okay, now you see that these two labels, they are inside my group. Okay, if you want to check that, you can change to edit mode. Okay, and now you see the structure. We have the image, the text, and the group inside has two texts. Okay, so this way I can move the whole group and put it here. Okay, now it's on the top. Well, remember that this is the image that had absolute position, so it's on the background. So my group is first on the top now. But they are still in a vertical stack because a group by default is also a vertical stack because it has this parameter which is called orientation. Okay, but now if I change the group orientation to horizontal, you see that now I have my label 2 next to the label 1. Okay, and they are 50% each. I could make them smaller. For example, let's imagine that I use this label 1. I use a width of wrap. Okay, so it fits the content. You see. Now the label 2. Well, let me change the color of the label 2. You'll see better. Blue. Okay. Okay, so now my level 2 is still 50%. This means 50% of the width, not the screen now, but the parent, which is the group. Okay, so the group is 100%. Let me add some background to the group. This one. Okay, so now the group is like red. This is the whole group. So if I make the group, let's say 50%. Okay, now the whole group is 50% of the screen. Okay, but then inside the group, I have this label 2, which is 50% of the size of the group. So if I make the group smaller, then this label will be also smaller because it's always going to be 50% of the parent, which is a group. Okay, so let's make the group bigger again. Okay, and we can put it in the middle. What is that? H-align center. Okay, now I have my group here. So what I can do now, instead of using 50% on label 2, I could do this. I could use fill, and this means since the label 1 has a wrap width, which means it fits the content, I could do label 2 to fill the available space. So it will. I mean, when I develop this, I don't really know the available space, but if I use fill, then it will fill all the available space. Okay, so yeah, and then I can also add groups inside groups. So let's imagine that I do this wrap. I could add inside the group, I could add another group. Okay, let's use like cell 2, for example. Okay, and I could put here like 50%, and let's use a background. Yellow maybe. Okay, so now I have this group which is yellow. You cannot see it because it has no content, but I could put some content inside. Okay, you can just click here on content and start adding things to this cell, or you can use the edition mode. Let me add, for example, this text. I'm going to add it here inside this cell. Now you see, now the whole, now we can see the cell because it has content, so it has height. Okay, we could add also this other text inside, and you see that now we have a vertical stack. Okay, let's try to understand this again. So we have this whole group which has one text, then it has another text, and then it has one group, and this group has two texts. But now the group, the inner group, has a vertical orientation, so the content is distributed vertically. Okay, and then let's go to short mode. You see that now these labels are on the center, on the middle vertically. We could change that. We could do label 1 with V align or vertical align on the top, and we could have label 2 with vertical align on the bottom, for example. Okay, so yeah, so basically this is how you can design your interfaces. Okay, imagine that instead of text, I could use images, or I could use forms, I could use anything. Okay, so I mean, we're not going to learn everything about components today. We will see a bit of probably images and text and some others. Okay, but now that we know how to set components, how to design them, I mean, how to make a mock-up of all or our components on the screen, let's talk about the next thing, about the wrappers. Okay, we don't have any wrapper on this screen, but let's try to make some wrappers and finish the whole design of our screen. Okay, so well, we had this main wrapper set for this view, and the main wrapper is empty. Okay, imagine that this is a new wrapper. Okay, so let's see what we can add into a wrapper. We click on the plus button. So, and we have these three things. Basically, we have an action bar, we have a drawer, which is a side menu, and we have a pager, which is in case we want to have like several views inside our wrapper or our section. Okay, we could use a wrapper. Okay, or you can just leave the wrapper without any extra things. In this case, you will have like a full screen wrapper. Okay, in case you want to add some landing space or one page with the logo of your company, you could have a wrapper with no content. Okay, so like this is the case we have. Okay, so yeah, I think, what if we do a real example? Okay, what if we create like the basic structure of one app? So I'm going to have a welcome screen, then I will have a main screen. Okay, so yeah, so first time we use the app, we want to show this welcome screen with like two views, like a screen one and then a next button to go to a different view but inside the same wrapper. Okay, let's try that. So well, let's remove the whole content. Okay, um, okay, now my view is empty. So well, basically I'm going to have a background screen, background image. Sorry, image. I will use this background. I will use it 100% height and width, and we will use scale crop. I think and position absolute. Okay. Now I have the background of my welcome screen. Let's call it background one. Okay. Now I want to show like a welcome text. So I will use a text, or let me use a group. I normally like to put everything inside a group so I can have some padding. So let's put a group and I will call it like body one. And I will put this group with some padding like 24. Okay, and then I'm going to add some text. Okay, like welcome. Okay, and I will, well, I'm going to explain some specific parameters for text. Okay, so we can learn more, like welcome one is the ID. Okay, I have my text. So how can I make the text bigger? Okay, so I have this parameter called font size. I can use a number like 32, so the text makes bigger. Okay, then I can have how to align the text inside the component. Now it's aligned to the left, but I want to align it to the middle. You can use this text align and put it on the center. Okay, did you see now the box is centered into the screen, but now also the text is centered into the box. Okay, so well, then we can change the color of the text. You have this parameter called color. You can use some color of the list, or I mean, you can use just the RGB color, like white is FFFFF. Okay, but normally I would recommend not to put a color code here, but instead of that, you should always use a color in the palette. Okay, because if you put the color in every text of the app, I mean, you put the code in every text of the app. Imagine that tomorrow you want to change the look and feel of your app, or your customer tells you that they don't like the colors of the app and they want to change the colors of the text. Okay, in that case, you would have to change the color in every different text component of the app. Okay, so it's always better to use some color in the palette. You remember that those colors were here. Okay, so in case you want to change the color for the whole app, you just change one value here, and then you can change all the text in the app. Okay, so yeah, let's use some color, like color, I don't know, primary text maybe. Well, it's black, but now we have this primary text. Okay, so if I go here, I can change the primary text to, I don't know, this one, for example. If I go back here, oh, what happened? Oh, something happened with this color. Yeah, okay. I added some transparency. You see this alpha channel. I don't know why. Okay, now it should. I mean, if you don't want the color to be semi-transparent, you should have always 6 letters here. Okay, now I have my text. Okay, so what else? We can also change. Well, this we have this selectable thing. This is only for Android. So if it's true, then the user will be able to long press on the text and be able to select part of it. Then we have decimals. This is in case we are going to display numbers. We can put a limit in the number of decimals we want. Well, the field, I'm not going to talk about this today. We'll see that. Then we have the font. This is in case we want to use our custom font. Okay, by default, if we don't say, I mean, if we don't specify a font, it will use the system font. Okay, but we can upload a TTF file to Codoozer. So let me show you. I have, for example, maybe here. Yeah, I have this TTF font. No, let me use this Pacific, this one, for example. Okay, file names should never have spaces if you want to use them on Codoozer. Okay, so I have this TTF file. You can just drop it on Codoozer anywhere, and it will create this fonts folder. Okay, and it will also add it to the fonts list. Okay, so now I can use it here. So if for this text, I can use the property font and select my custom font. Okay, let's make it a bit bigger. Okay, so what else we have? Well, basically that's it for text. Well, we have text be aligned, vertical align, in case the box is higher. We can also like change the alignment of the text inside inside the box. Okay, inside the component. Okay, let's add some more text. We can have some instructions maybe. Hi, this is the app, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's make it longer. Okay, we could have this like some explanation about our app and with some margin, especially on the top. We could have like 48. Okay. Then we could have one image or whatever. And finally, we could have one, well, let's put this on the top, be align top. It's on the top, but just in case, we move the group. Okay, now imagine that we want to put some button to go to the next view. Okay, so we could have, well, we have the welcome, we have, well, now we have the background image, the body, and we could put a button. So let's add some text, like button 1, and this will be continue. Okay, we're going to use a background, solid, primary dark, for example. I know it looks awful because of the colors I'm using, but I'm not focusing on the design really. So let's use 90%, for example, and put it on the center with H align center. Then I will align the text in the center and add some padding, like 24 maybe, not too much, let's say 16. Okay, so now I have this button, but I want this button to be on the bottom. So let's use be align bottom, but the group, I want the group on the top, and also, but well, there's some bug here on this simulator, because when there's some component aligned on the bottom, everything goes to the bottom. But this won't happen on the app. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to use this height for my group fill, so it will fill all the space available on the top of the button. Okay, now you see the group is, I mean, let me put a background. You see now the group is taking all this space. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't refresh the simulator when I remove a background, but you have to change some text and it refreshes the simulator, but we will fix that. Okay. So yeah, and finally, for finishing this view, I will add some margin to the bottom, the button on the bottom. So let's add some margin. Let's say like 24 maybe. Okay, now it's far from the limit of the screen. Okay, you should always avoid to put things touching the border of the phone. Okay, maybe only images, things like that sometimes, but you should never put buttons touching the limits of the screen, or text touching the limit. Okay, so okay, I have this main view, which is welcome view 1. Let me change the name, welcome view 1. Why? Okay, I cannot use capital letters, I think. So welcome 1. Okay. Then I have to change, I think here on the app, I should change the on-start event. No, it changed automatically. Okay, that's good. So I have this welcome 1 screen or view. Okay, now I want to go to the welcome 2 view. So basically I'm going to create a new view. I will call it welcome 2. So I have, well, it's empty, but basically I'm going to use the same wrapper, and the title will be welcome to. Okay, but let me just copy the content. Okay, I want to finish fast, So you can copy components. You can just put them in the portfolio, like copy, and then come here and paste it. But you should make sure to change the ID. Okay, then I want to get this body and paste it here. Okay, I should sometimes, but if you copy a group and this group has content inside, you should make sure that you change this welcome label to the IDs. Okay, because sometimes the groups don't change the name of the IDs of the components inside. Okay, so you should always change them. Welcome instructions to, for example. Okay, and finally I will copy this button. Make sure that you copy it here below the body. Okay, and this could be accept, for example. Okay, button 2. And well, I normally use this second screen like just to say something like 100% safe, and then I put here some policy or privacy policy content, things like that. Okay, so yeah, now I have two views. Okay, but I want these two views to, I want the app to let the user swipe from one view to the other. Okay, so if they click on, they do this gesture, the swipe gesture, I want them to change from view 1 to view 2. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to put both views inside the same wrapper. Okay, remember that one wrapper can have more than one views. In order to do that, you have to go to the wrapper and add a pager. Okay, so now you have to, for the pager, you have to tell the wrapper which views you are going to use. So click here on views and then plus button, welcome 1 and welcome 2. Okay, so now this wrapper has a pager with two views. Okay, I could have tabs. If I do this, then I will have tabs. So now the user will be able to swipe from right to left. Okay, but in this case, I don't need tabs because I want to have a full screen without tabs. So let me remove it. Okay. Okay, so, and finally, well, you can swipe from one view to another, or you can have a button that will move from one view to another. So in this text, in the view 1, in welcome 1, I'm going to define the onClick. Okay, and here I'm going to set this function go to, which is for changing to a different view. Okay, go to welcome to. Okay, so if they are in welcome 1 view and they click on the button, then there will be some scroll to the right to show the second view. Okay, but we will be still in the same wrapper, in the same section of the app. Okay, so yeah, so let's create now the main view. So imagine that after they click here and accept, okay, we want to take the user to the main screen of the app, like the main menu or something. Okay, so let's create another view. I will call it this view like main. Okay, so well, from welcome to, I'm going to set this button with the action and click and the action go to main. So I want to go to view main. So well, when you are editing this function, you have a view here, you can click on this link button and then you will be redirected to editing the main view. Okay, so now this will be main view, the title, and for the wrapper we are not going to use the same wrapper, the main wrapper. Okay, well, in fact, we could have renamed this ID to welcome wrapper. Okay, now this should, yeah, it changed here as well. Okay, I have the welcome wrapper, so I'm going to create the main wrapper, for example. Okay, so for the main, I'm going to use the main wrapper. Okay, and let's add some, just a small main body, small group with padding aligned to the top, and inside I'm just going to use some text. This is the main view, for example. Okay, so let's go and edit the main wrapper. So here I want to use an action bar, which is a bar on the top. It can have the title of the view, it can have buttons, it can have a menu. So I'm going to just add it. You see now we have this bar. So if I go to the main view, it will show on the bar the title of this view. If you change here, main view title, you see it changes on the top. What else? Well, I can change, I could have a back button. If I go to the view, you see this back button. Well, it normally, this back button is used not in the main screen or in the main view. Normally, if from the main view you access like some new view with instructions or help or something like that, there you put the back button. Okay. But here we don't really need it. And then we can change the background color of the whole bar. We can change the color of the text and the icons on the bar. We can add a menu. We don't see that on the simulator, but it will work on the app. Okay, but we will talk about menus later. Or we can add a title. In case the view doesn't have a title, we can add one to the bar. Okay. If we don't set a background color, it will use, I think it will use this primary color, I think. Okay. No, sorry. Let's go back to the main wrapper. Okay, this is for the action bar, and for the main screen, we can also add a drawer, which is this side menu. Okay. So here we have to set the menu file. Okay, menus are not defined here inside the wrapper. They are defined here on the menus folder. So here we have all the menu files. Okay, in this file, for example, in this main menu file, we define one menu. This one has two options. The first one has this title called option 1, and the second one has this title called option 2. Okay, but we could change this like about us, and for example remove ads, for example. Okay, so if we go back to the wrapper, here we can use one of the menus. So we will use the main menu file. Okay, so now you see my two options appeared here. Okay, then we can also set an icon. So if we use an icon, then we have this header on our side menu, and we can have a title like my cool app and a subtitle. You should keep using it. Okay, for example. And yeah, then you can also have some icons here on the menu, but you don't put the icons here in the drawer. You have to go to the main menu file, and for each option you can add an icon. But since I don't want to use these icons, they are too big, let me find, I think I have some icons. Let me drag and drop them here. So now I can have this icon for the first option and another icon for the second option. So if I go back to my wrapper, you see now I have icons on the menu. Okay, and finally I can go to my view, and I mean, when you are editing a view, you also see the wrapper. Now you see my editing this view, I see the wrapper on the top. So you can have a clear vision of, or clear view of the whole design of the app. Okay. And yeah, and I think for finishing this small project, we could have like a different view. It will be the about us view. Okay, so let's create a new view. Let's call it about us, and I'm going to create a new wrapper. It will be like action bar only, for example. So in this wrapper, I'm just going to add an action bar with a back button. Okay, and maybe a different color. No, not the color, but the background color. This one, for example. Okay, so let's go to our About Us view. Let's put a title. And the wrapper is going to be the action bar only. Okay, and now, well, let me copy just to finish quick the whole group and paste it here. This is the About Us text, for example. Okay, so now how can we go from the main view to this view? Okay, so instead of adding a button here, I'm going to use the menu, this menu here. So let's go to main menu, and for the option 1, I'm going to use this option, the on click. So I can also set functions for the events on the menus. So if they click this option on the menu, I want to go to the view about us. Okay, so if they are here and they open this side menu and they click on the option about us, then they will be redirected to the screen or to the view about us. Okay, so well, I think that's all. Let me check if I use the action. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to show you this on my phone. Okay, and I guess that will be all for today's webinar, I guess. So I'm going to export. Well, let me download. This is, you should always do this. I mean, in fact, I should have done it like some minutes ago. Normally, if you are working on an app, every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes, you should download this CDC file. Okay, remember always that. Okay, just if something happens, your computer, I mean, the power goes off, something, then you should always have a copy of your project. Okay, just in case. I mean, shit happens, right? So now I have my CDC file, and I'm going to export it to APK. So I'm going to install it on my Android phone, and I will show you. Okay, it normally takes like 1 to 3 minutes. Oh, something happened. One moment. Well, I tried to export my project to APK, but there was an error. You can click on these dots, and it says that this ID welcome one is duplicated. So I'm using it in views welcome one, content body one, content welcome one. Yeah, I'm using this ID, which is the same ID as my view. So I shouldn't do that. I mean, IDs should be always unique. Welcome label one. Okay, so let's try again. Export to APK. Now it seems it's generating it. So let me open Visor. Okay, now it's ready. I'm going to scan it. I'm not sure if Visor is opening. I want to show you my phone. I didn't double click it. Okay. Oh, it's not working. Oh, yeah. Okay, so here's my phone. I'm installing the app. It seems my internet connection on my phone is not very good. Okay, now open, install. Is open. Okay, so this is my, you see, remember my first wrapper, which is, you can see that I can swipe to the right or to the left because I'm always in the same wrapper, but it has two views. Okay, so if I click on continue, it goes to the second view. So it automatically does this swiping. Okay, and now if I click on accept, it should go to my main view. You see? I have my title, I have my text, and I have my side menu. Okay. So now if I click on the About Us, well, you see that the colors on the icons are always like monochrome. Okay, that's something of the app. Okay, I know in the simulator on the web we show the real color, but they will always be like monochrome. Okay, so you should use PNG with transparency if you want to use icons here. Okay, so if I click on About Us, it should go here to my About screen. You see that with different color on the action bar, and now I can click back and it will go there. Okay, the thing is that now if I click back, it will go to the um, previous view, which is the welcome view. You see? Okay, and this happened because we should have put this, remember the history parameter, to false in both screens, the welcome one and the welcome two. Okay, so in this case, now if I click back from the main screen, then it won't show the welcome screen. Okay, so well, I think that's all for today. I mean, with everything I explained today, you can start to design amazing interfaces, okay? With this position absolute and relative, with these groups, with these horizontal orientations, vertical orientations, I mean, widths, heights, with all that, you can define amazing interfaces. Okay, now you need to practice, and I guess that's all you need to know. Okay, so well, next week we will have our lesson 3, and we will start talking about how to make these interfaces alive. Okay, well, now we have put some buttons on the screen. We have we have used the go to function. Okay, but next week we will make our interfaces more interactive, so the user can do things like writing. We will start creating forms, so when the user enters something, we will make our app to calculate things, or we will see how to connect one component to another. Okay, so we will start to make our apps very interactive. Okay, so after lesson 3, I mean, if you've seen lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3, with all that knowledge, you will have all you need to know to start creating amazing apps. Okay, I mean, with the first 3 lessons, you will start understanding how Codoozer works. Okay, then we will start doing more complex things. On lesson 4, we will start using Firebase databases. We will start doing, I mean, image processing. I mean, we will start to do quite advanced things in next lessons. Okay, but it won't really be difficult. Okay, so if you learn everything from lesson 1 to lesson 3, you'll see that you will be able to understand everything of Codoozer. Okay, so yeah, so that's all for today. Okay, so well, I'm going to stick around in case you have questions for a little bit. Okay, but just want to say thank you to everyone watching this recording on YouTube. Okay, please remember to subscribe to this channel in case you want to be informed about next lessons. Yeah, and that's all for today. Thank you again, and see you in the next webinar. Okay, so well, now in case, well, it's only you now, Sonny. I'm not sure if you're still there. So if you want to ask questions or just anything about Codoozer, how's everything's going. I saw some of your apps. They are looking good. Any other projects in mind? Well, maybe you're not here now. Well, since I have this delay of 25 seconds, something like that, I always have to make a pause after asking questions. By the way, in the meantime, if you don't have questions, you're here. Okay. Okay, I see. No problem. So, well, I just want to give a reminder for all the viewers that we are, you know, that Codoozer is now currently available for Android, but we are working on the iOS version. I mean, it's going quite fast, more than expected. So we have done a lot of progress, and it's possible to start making some apps. I mean, it's not available here on the dashboard, but for some apps, you can send us the CDC file and we will generate the IPA file for you for iOS. Okay, so currently we support image, I mean, we support wrappers, we support dialogues, we support views, we support images, text, inputs, I mean, text inputs, we support functions, some, not all the functions, but some of them. We support banners with AdMob. Um, and what else? Some Firebase integration we support too. And I guess during the rest of October, we will add more Firebase integration. Okay, so I hope in November, maybe you can already start generating IPAs from here, from the dashboard. Okay, but it's going quite well, the iOS version. Okay, I did really, since I'm developing the iOS version and I didn't know anything about Swift programming like 2 months ago, I'm super happy of the progress because I didn't expect to be this fast by October, but it's going quite good. Okay, so yeah, so I think that's everything for today. Okay, if there are no more questions, I guess Sonny, in the next, well, maybe the next webinar will be easy for you as well, but maybe in 2 weeks or so we will start doing some more complex things. Okay, so yeah, so and you know, any question you have, any mistake or any error or anything, you can just send us the CTC file and we will try to solve it. Okay. So yeah, so again, see you in the next one. Okay, and thanks for being here, Sonny. Bye.